All right, welcome to Conditionals Lesson 2, where we'll be looking at exercise questions and narrating what's happening to really learn how to use Boolean operators properly so that we can create a result that gives us a Boolean value. In this exercise here, we're given a non-negative number input, and we're going to output whether if the number is exactly two values away from a multiple of 10. So it could be like 8, 12, 18, 22, just values that are exactly two away from multiple of 10. So here we go. Just like the previous unit, we're going to start off with our input. We're going to assume that our number that we get as an input is going to be non-negative. So enter a non-negative number. Then we're going to go into our processing. Okay. So I'm going to call this result. We're going to hold the result of either true or false into this variable. Okay. There are multiple ways to do this. Number one, so I'm going to actually call this result A, which is the first way to do it is if I want to know if it's exactly two away, I'm going to try maybe adding two or subtracting two, right? And if I do that, and if I divide by 10, or if it's divisible by 10, we are pretty sure that it is exactly two values away from 10. So we're going to do all bracket num plus 2 modulus of 10. Okay. So if I were to add 2 to num and do modulus of 10, and if that is equal to 0, as in there is no remainder, okay, that num is right now a 2 away from 10. We can say, or it can be the opposite, right, where we subtract 2 modulus 10, that also equals 0. And if that entire expression is true, we know that num is exactly 2 away from 10. So for our output, it just says it wants it in Boolean values. We're going to print result A. Okay. Another thing you can do is we can do result B is equal to, if we did num modulus 10 is equal to 8, or num modulus 10 is equal to 2. So when I was giving you those example numbers when I introduced the problem, every time it was either 8, 12, 22, 28, 32, 38, 42, right? They either have a 2 as their last digit or 8 as their last digit. Therefore, we're just going to divide it by 10 and get the remainder. And if the remainder is either 8 or 2, we know that that value is also 2 away from a multiple of 10. At this point, if both of them gives us true, that means we wrote a pretty good solid program. So let's try it with 11. That'd be false, not 2 away from 10. If I had to do 12, that's going to give us true. And you can do this with all numbers. I would have taken any of the options here. Okay, both are correct. This just does less operations compared to line 11, but they both get the same job done. Okay? So right here, we're using a comparison operator to compare the left side and the right side. If it's equal, it values true. Okay? Here, same idea. It evaluates this first and compares the left side with the right side. And if they're equal to each other, it is true. The OR helps us combine a Boolean expression and a Boolean expression. Okay? So therefore, we're checking if at least one of the statements is true. If both are true, great. Like the entire expression will be true. However, in the OR, we're looking for if one side of the OR is true. So we always do the OR last. We always do comparison first, followed by, or previously followed by our arithmetic operators. In this exercise, we're going to be given 4 values from the user, and we're going to determine if they have an average of 80% or higher. And we're going to output that as a Boolean value of either true or false. Basically, what I want to do is get the 4 inputs, add them all together, and divide it by 4. That's going to help us calculate an average. And if that average is greater than 80, using the greater symbol, is going to evaluate true for us. Let's see how that works with Python code. Let's get our inputs. We're going to have mark1 int input, and we're going to say enter mark1. And let's copy that over 4 times. That's not what I wanted. 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4. Awesome. We have our 4 marks. Let's go into our processing. I'm going to call it average, and we're going to calculate the average here, which is the total sum of Mark 1 plus Mark 2 plus Mark 3, Mark 4, all divided by 4. Okay, so that's going to give us an average. It's going to be a floating point that is a-okay, and we're going to say the result is equal to our average greater than 80. So if our total calculation of our average is greater than 80, or actually it should be 80 or equal to, because it can be 80% or higher. So if our average is either greater or equal to 80, this result variable is going to be true. Otherwise, it's going to be false. And then we're going to go output, print just the result, because that's what our output should be. And we run the program. Let's say we got 100 and a 70 and a 60 and 100. All right, so our average is true. And let's make this a little more user-friendly. The average is average. So let's say we got 90, 80, 88, 85. Okay, so our average is 85.75. Perfect. Our average is greater or equal to 80%. In this exercise video, we're going to be looking at a triangle verifier. So basically, we're given the 3 side lengths, not the angles, the side lengths of a triangle from the user, and we're trying to determine if it's a triangle. So our output should be a Boolean value, true or false. A quick little tidbit here. So if if A and B, C represents the 3 sides of a triangle, we can validate that by saying A plus B is greater than C, B plus C is greater than A, and A plus C is greater than B. Basically, the sum of 2 sides has to be greater than the one left over for it to be a valid triangle, and all of that must be true. So let's get started with our program. So side A equal to input. I want that for, let's go enter side A blank, capitalize that, and let's copy that over twice. Okay, we have, now we can start our processing section. So at this moment, I want to verify all of these. So we can say check 1 is equal to A plus B. Side A plus side B must be greater than side C. Check 2, side B plus side C must be greater than side A. Check 3, side A plus side C must be greater than side B. Okay, so now how do I verify that all of them are true? We're going to do a final check, which is check 1 must be true, and check 2 must be true, and check 3 must be true. Because these all evaluate to a Boolean value. So these variables here, check 1, check 2, check 3, ends up becoming Boolean values. And what this is going to do is basically execute like this, where it's going to do the left and right check of the first 2. So as long as this variable and this variable value is true, this entire expression right here value is true, then compares the true value of this. If both are true, this entire line, this Boolean expression turns to true, and only if all these values are true do we have a valid triangle. Okay, we're going to print final check, and that's going to be our program. So let's try this with maybe an impossible program. So let's say 1, 1, let's say we have 100, right? False, because it's not going to give us a valid triangle, but there is the infamous 3, 4, 5 triangle, and that's going to give us true. All right, and let's fix our inputs here and run that again. I believe there's a 3, 15, 13 triangle. Yeah. Okay, so that is the rule, and we can create Boolean expressions like so, where it's going to do the arithmetic operators first, then do the comparison operator, compare the left side and the right side, right? So if the left side is bigger than the right, it's going to be true. Otherwise, it's false, right? Here, final check, you don't need the brackets here because it always go left first. But in terms of having multiple ands, it's going to calculate this to be either true or false. And if one side of the and is false, the entire statement is going to be false. Otherwise, if all the values of the and are true, then our expression is going to be true. In this exercise here, we're going to create a program such that the user input an integer, and we're going to double check that it is greater than 0, less than 100, and it's not even. Okay. If the number fails any of the conditions, we're going to output false. Otherwise, we're going to output true if all of them is true. Here we go. So quick and easy, we're going to go num is equal to integer input here. And let's get them to enter an integer. And always don't forget to close your brackets. We're going to go processing. Okay. We're going to check. Let's do check one. Actually, I'm going to call it result. I'm going to show you how to do all of this in one line. Not really better to do it one line, but I just wanted to show you how that would work. So we have num greater than 0, and num is less than 100. And num must be, when divided by 2, cannot have a remainder of 0. Or you want it to be a remainder of 1, as in we're checking that the number is odd. So any number that is even when divided by 2 should have a remainder of 0. If it doesn't, it's going to be an odd number, therefore not even. We're checking if num is less than 100, so this is how we can do that. And we can check if num is greater than 0 by doing that. As long as one of these becomes false, the entire statement is going to be false, so we're going to get false. If all of these are true, then we're going to get a Boolean expression that evaluates the true. Okay. Now what I want to do is comment that out and just clean that up. What we can do is also write this front part like this. We can say 0, num, 100. Now, this isn't popular in most programming languages, but this is possible in Python language. So you can actually write it like that when you want to check if num is in between a range of numbers 0 to 100, for example. And then we can say num posits 2 doesn't equal 0. And we're going to go output, and we can just print the result at the end. So let's try this. Our first check would be enter integer of -1, turns false, right? Because we are not greater than 0. Let's try going above 100. So let's say 101. That is also false because we ended up going above 100. Good. Our program's working so far. We're going to choose a number that's in between the range, but it's even. Also false because 42 is an even number. Let's try with number 7. It fits both of these criteria. So this is true. This is true. So this entire statement becomes a true and true. Therefore, it reduces to true and result as a Boolean value of true. In this exercise here, we're going to create a program that checks if the first word exists in the second word. So that pattern, we're looking for that pattern from the first word if it exists in the second word. And basically, this exercise is to show you how the in operator works and how it creates a Boolean value. So input, we're going to get word 1. It's just a string input. Enter the first word. And we're going to go word 2 is equal to input, enter the second word. Okay. And what we want to do if we want to check if word 1 is in word 2, so, and that's how it's going to write it. So we're going to say result is equal to word 1 in word 2. Output, print, result. Okay. And let's run this. So we're going to enter the first word. Let's say we wrote hello, and we wrote goodbye. That's going to be false because hello doesn't exist. This pattern altogether cannot be found in any section of goodbye, right? But if I were to say hello, hello world, that's going to be true because hello exists altogether side by side like so. And if I were to also try, let's say L in hello, that was also true because this pattern of L exists in hello. Now, I just want to show you what we're going to be doing on the second half of this unit, where we're outputting true right now, and that's not so fun. But what we could do is, if I were to comment all this out, what we can do is actually control our output based on that condition. We can say if word 1 in word 2, and print word 1 exists in word 2. Else, if that is false, if our condition that we wrote here is false, we can also say print all that. But we're going to write does not exist. Word 2. And if we were to try this again, let's say he and hello, we're going to get he exists and hello, right? However, if we're to say goodbye, in hello. This is going to say goodbye doesn't exist. Hello. Okay. So first of all, this is how we use an in operator. We're going to check if this pattern or this item exists in a sequence. Okay. If it does, if it doesn't, it's false. And in the second half, we're going to learn how to use if statements to control the decisions that you want to make with your program. And I am very excited for you to learn that next. Thank you for watching. Stay classy.